looks like now it's going to work.
So are we changing the computers, or is it okay now?
Now
it's okay. Okay.
And we made it seem that we would change.
Okay.
Oh, that's perfect. So as he mentioned, Somos Educação is the largest K-12 education company in Brazil and the 5th largest in the world. And since last month, we are even bigger because we're in the middle of a merger with Croton. That's a very complementary education company in Brazil. Somos is very big in K-12, basic education, and Croton is very big in private higher education, universities. Just so you have an idea of the influence of Somos in Brazil, we impact right now 29 million school students in Brazil that use at least one piece of content from us. We sell a year around 35 million textbooks. We are by far the largest textbook publisher in Brazil. More than 1,000 published titles, different titles, covering every subject and every grade. We have almost 3,000 partner schools that use only our content, and tens of thousands of other schools that use some of our content. And we are a special company because we also totally own and operate some schools. We have 50,000 students in schools that we completely operate. So more than having a laboratory, it's like we have kind of internal market for new things to be tried. Okay? And the interesting thing about the merger with Croton is that, as I mentioned, they are complementary because we are very small in higher education. They are very big in higher education. They are the largest higher education company in the world, actually, right now, even being based in Brazil, with 1.6 million undergraduate students in 213 different campuses. They are in every state in Brazil. And one very interesting thing is that right now, studying in Croton universities, we have around half of the next generation of school teachers in Brazil. So we are, this new company, this merged company, can influence education from every standpoint, even the preparation for the market of new teachers. So it's a very interesting proposition and a lot of responsibility also. And for a long time, Somos decided to invest a lot in digital transformation. And that's not usual for traditional textbook publishers. Everywhere in the world, and especially in Brazil, they are a little bit afraid of moving out of the traditional book model. Somos has a commitment to, as the market evolves, to be totally digital in some years, to be away of the conventional textbook if the time arrives for that. For that, we developed a platform that's called Plural with 2 L's. Under Somos, we have several different brands in education, 4 different publishing houses, 7 different networks of schools. But on digital, we decided to have one single strong brand, that's Plural. Plural offers our content with service around it. The most basic service is just the digital, our textbooks in digital form. But on top of that content, we offer assessment, tutoring, and activities and exercises that are done online or mobile. Plural is both a mobile and online platform. So the students can, even if the school doesn't support smartphones or tablets in the classroom, the student can do all the activities outside the classroom within Plural. If a student uses any piece of content that is from Somos, he has the right to use Plural around that piece of content, even if it's just one book that he uses in his schools that comes from Somos. So Plural is connected to every piece of content they produce. But the problem is that the content that's the center of the service architecture is a traditional textbook made for print that we put in digital there. And that has a series of problems. It's a little bit like we are filming a theater play and pretending it's a movie. It's not the same, okay? Because the content's made, when you develop a textbook for print, it has a lot of limitations in terms of size, architecture, the way it's very linear, it's very based on text. And when you think about a digital content, it can be much more interactive, it can be much more dynamic, it can have video everywhere, it can have little text. And so in Somos, we decided to start an initiative called the Digital First Project, where instead of evolving our editorial to be more digital, we create a totally new editorial that's pure digital, that works in parallel. At some point, we believe this is going to be bigger than the traditional editorial there. But we are placing the bets, we're carrying both strategies at the same time. The textbooks are still a reality, they're still the biggest revenue source from us, but we do believe it's going to be substituted eventually, almost completely by digital content. But we decided that this digital content should not carry any relation with the model of producing textbooks for print. The mindset of people creating this content should come from a pure digital perspective. They should think about video first, about interactivity first, and not about text and image first. Static text and image first. Just an example, that's one of the functionalities of Plural, the tutoring platform where you navigate through the structure of one of our books, and you can ask questions about things you did not understand. And we have a group of teachers who answer those questions online. It works quite well. It's easy to see the question, the answer in the digital platform. But these questions are connected to the content. When you try to look at the content itself, it doesn't work well in digital format. It doesn't work well in a smartphone. We complement this content with videos and stuff like this to enrich it. But the content itself, where you see there, very capitally, it's not made for a smartphone screen. We could serve it as a responsive EPUB instead of as a PDF, but still wouldn't be ideal because it still would be linear content. It still would be not hyper-connected, let's put it this way. The structure of a book is like this. You have the book, you have some sort of subdivision of this book, chapters, stuff like that, but it's very structured in a very poor way. A pure digital content should be more like this. Small topic nodes that can be connected through several different ways and can be followed, specific paths can be followed for specific learning objectives. So it's a much more flexible approach. That's why we decided that we have to think, to go about building this kind of content in a totally different way. That's why we decided to do it parallel. Where Thunder come into play? To build this kind of content, to author this kind of content, we needed a platform that was also digital, that was cloud-based. So we chose Thunder because of the flexibility of the Drupal taxonomies to organize content, because of the extensibility of paragraphs to create individual nodes that can contain any kind of content fragments, because whatever paragraphs doesn't support, we can extend it to support. Because Drupal media management is quite evolved in Drupal 8, and well, all of this we had in Drupal 8, but Thunder had a good authoring experience with all of this pre-configured. So we decided to start with Thunder as a base of our CMS for this education content authoring, but we had to build some stuff on top of it. And most of the stuff we built on top of it, we gave back to the community as open source. The specific way we configured the CMS is ours, but the bits and pieces that we had to put together on it, we gave back to the community as modules that are on Drupal.org. The first investment we did was with Jobel, a Norwegian company, that developed a standard for HTML5 interactive content authoring called H5P. H5P allows you to have hundreds of, tens of different kinds of interactive content that you can build on it. Since it outputs HTML5, it plays everywhere. And they had a Drupal 7 module that was very poor because it established a content type, a separate content type for that. We wanted the Drupal 8 module to be a field, not a content type, and a field that would be compatible with paragraphs, so we could fit within Thunder in the article content type in Thunder. So we did this a year and a half ago. It's available for everyone in Drupal. So you have all this content type, all these interactive content types that you can create within an article in Thunder just by adding H5P module to the distribution and creating H5P paragraph type. So one of the things we use the most is interactive video. I'm going to show you a little bit about that later on. But you have all these sort of things that we can put, you can have as tools to compose an article there, a note. With MD systems, we invested in improvements in paragraphs, in the interface of paragraphs, and also to make the most modern paragraph widget compatible with Thunder. And the Thunder core team helped with that, of course, for Thunder to absorb and be able to use this more advanced experimental widget as the main option in Thunder. And also to make paragraphs more compatible with core moderation, because we do need moderation to be on in this project to have a approval process, a workflow approval process for the whole content. And also, MD Systems developed an integration of the Drupal media infrastructure with our corporate digital asset manager. Because we do license a lot of images, a lot of stuff for other content, we want to use that for the digital production also. Palantir, a West company that maintains Workbench Access, modernized and made several improvements because Workbench Access was working really not well in Drupal 8. And so we invested in them to make it a more finished module. It allows us to separate, because content moderation allows us to create a workflow, approval workflow. But with Workbench Access, we can separate different groups of people working in different groups of content. Because of our size, eventually we need that. And with Wonder, we developed a new kind of view, a new kind of way to look at the content that's called trail graph view. It's also a module that's published in Drupal. With this developed, we start creating this kind of content that we call trails. It's the first step to reach that web of nodes that I showed before. So what's a trail? A trail is an ordered sequence of nodes. Each node is a Thunder article. We use a very simple module that's called node order to allow us to order the nodes within one taxonomy term. So these raposas, lobos, e cachorros, it's a node. That's the first one in this trail. This trail is a taxonomy term. But it can be part of another trail and be the third node in another trail. So with this, we can build order, but we can also make eventually a web that can be navigate in several different ways and sequences. In a very simple way, with a very simple interface, where I order it, order the nodes in each taxonomy, in each taxonomy term separated. So we can navigate through the other nodes of this trail, because education is about progression. It's about, so sequence is important. You have to learn something to be able to go more in deep in the next concept, next concept, next concept. One thing that H5P allows us, for example, is put a video within a node, but we can, for example, build some interactivity on top of this node. The most basic way to build interactivity is that we can bookmark the video. So when the student goes back to this video, but he wants just to review something specifically, he doesn't have to be finding that in the video. He can just go directly to the bookmark and review that part of the video. But that's a very simple example of interactivity on top of video that H5P allows us to do in Thunder. There's more complex ones. Like in the next node, it's a node about a more complex concept of evolution and speciation by geographic separation. And we discussed the case of squirrels in different environments with different characteristics. And what H5P allows us to do here is small interactive games where the student simulates the natural selection happening there on top of the video. And if he doesn't get it right, automatically he replaces the relevant content in the video. So we break the linearity of the video. This video has like 5 minutes, but it's not 5 minutes linear. It's 1 minute, then an activity, then you test yourself. Then if you don't get it right, you review it, and then you go to the next step. Because for modern day students, even 5 minutes of continual attention is hard. So it's better that you keep the attention piece by piece, little by little. And so the H5P allows us to build this kind of stuff very easily. And if the video, if later on I see that I need one more activity in the video, I don't have to redo the video to put the activity. I just go there, I edit the node, and I can build one more interactive step on the video without changing the underlying video. So it's very inexpensive to build this interactivity on top of the video. And as the video goes on, we put more complex game simulations where we simulate mimetization and predation and stuff like this. So far, it's great to this platform to create these trails, the simple trails, the simple sequence of nodes. But as we start mixing and putting these nodes in other trails and building other directions with the same content, we needed a way to see how the content is distributed, how the content is connected, and to manipulate it in a more bird's eye view. That's the trail graph module that we created with Wunder. It's a general module. We are using a specific way here, but it's a general view module that you can use to build a view that basically plots nodes. The nodes are the blue spots. I'll zoom in later on and show more detail. And these color things on the top are taxonomy terms. So I'm showing how nodes are distributed through the taxonomy terms they share. So now I'm seeing the whole content I have as this web. It's a little complex to see it here, but you can filter by trail attributes or by node attributes and focus on more specific things, like how this trail here is sharing nodes with this other one here. And you can also see in the same view orphaned nodes, nodes that are not part of any trail, any sequence, and you can edit them and put them here. And you can also directly edit here any of those nodes and reconfigure how they are connected in a very graphical and very visual way. So it's a kind of interface that didn't exist before in Drupal, or I never saw in any CMS that were able to easily build it then, that can have other user cases before the one we have here. Because eventually you're going to have enough content to cover everything we cover with books in this format. And then we really need to be able to manipulate it from afar and to have several different ways of looking at it. So overall, that's it. I'm open to questions now, and whatever you want to know more about that.
Okay. Thank you, Ricardo. Big applause, yeah. So it seems to me that if we all use this software and these templates, we'll be able to hold the next Thunder meeting in Portuguese.
Okay.
So don't hesitate to ask. You're not supposed to ask in Portuguese. You can ask in English. Any questions to our guest from South America? It looks like there's no question. That means you did a good job. Thank you, Ricardo.
Thank you.